ready. This is going to be exciting.
Yeah, we got the restart zone to go. Green flag is out and we're underway.
Just a few laps into this. Oh, the 37's getting loose. What he says. Oh, they're going 3 wide.
We've got a 5-way fight for the win of this race coming to 4 laps to go. He's gonna win it here in spectacular fashion.
Well, it's race number 2 for our round of 12, and that means it's time to narrow our field down to just 8 drivers for next week. Charlotte Motor Speedway hosts our first cutoff race for the SAVE22 Truck Series, presented by Goat Locker Racing. Welcome back to the V-Speed booth once again. I'm Logan Threlkeld, and joining me here is, of course, Sky Shrek and Eddie Smith behind the scenes, controlling the cameras and everything that you see on the screen. Now, Sky, we were just talking about this coming into the booth here. We have an extremely tight points battle here going into this cutoff race. Give us a quick rundown on what you got going on here.
Yeah, we do. The points coming into this race are absurdly close. There's really almost no gap between a lot of the drivers. If you take a look at the point standings coming into tonight, right here, you can see them on your screen. Those are all the drivers who entered the playoffs. We got 12 in total, but coming into this race, the standings are very tight. Gardner and Dravik are kind of ahead of the field. You can see Dravik won last week there, so he is already through the next round. It was a really good race from Jeremy Gardner, so he's gotten a bunch of points as well. But looking further down the grid, Jacob Ellingson comes in on 1,042. From there, Jake Ham, Craig Bontrager, Levi McCarty, Timothy Peters, Michael McCarthy, and Jamie Mullins are all within 3 points. They are all from 1,040 to 1,037. That is from 4th down to 1 spot outside the cut line. And then Mike Browning is at 34, 3 points back, or 4 points back, I should say. Stephen McDonald at 32, 6 points back, and George Jewell, 9 points back. Needs a big run to make it in tonight, but this could go anybody's way. Anything could happen here.
And of course, Dravik already being locked into the next round of 8. You know, he could come into this race with a sense of, safety, but at the same time, you want to get as many bonus points as possible. So expect to see that 07 still challenging for a win here whenever it comes right down to it. There's one driver, however, I do want to try to get a word with, and we're going to start with somebody that's on the outside looking in. Once we get a moment here, I think he's coming to the end of his qualifying run, but George Jewell, the driver of the 36. Let's see if we can get him up here in the booth. He should be done with his qualifying laps now. George Jewell, you've got Logan and Sky up here in the V-Speed booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir, I do.
Well, buddy, we're looking at the point standings here, and we wanted to kind of talk to somebody on the outside looking in. You're a little bit further behind. You're just outside of the cut line, but it's not by much. You've got enough drivers out here tonight to make your way back up here into the top 8 and on to the next round. Do we have some sort of a strategy here going into tonight?
I got a couple other teammates that are really shooting to get in too. So mainly I got to try to be consistent and fast and try to get to the front. And maybe a pit strategy will work out for me. I really ain't got the speed some of these guys do, but we keep trying every week.
Well, you made it to the top 12 for a good reason. George, how are you feeling about your current position in the qualifying?
We got here.
Not everybody is done, but you are sitting in 8th right now, so about right in that mid-pack section.
Well, I got some heavy movers that I always see go to the front, and then I got some that also save tires and everything. So I'm about where I predicted and everything. So I'm around the ones I normally run around and everything. So we all know each other. So hopefully it'll be a good, clean race.
Awesome. Well, George, while we have you, is there anybody you'd like to give a quick shout out to?
My family down in Florida, my wife out there putting up with me, and everybody out there tuning in. Hope it's a good night for us, and good. Hopefully we put on a good show.
Absolutely. Well, good luck tonight, George. Maybe we'll get to catch up with you after the race here.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, Sky, we've got a pretty stout race here going into tonight. You want to give us some statistics here about what we've got set up?
Yeah, Charlotte is a very iconic track located out in North Carolina. This is where they run the Coke 600. It's where they ran the All-Star race for a long time as well. It's right in the backyard of a lot of NASCAR people. So this is really a track that everyone kind of likes. 24 degrees of banking in the turns. It's 1.5 miles in length. Kind of a typical 1.5 miles, but it races a little differently. This track's pretty narrow, and that tends to lead to some closer racing and some tighter battles, especially with drivers trying to make that high line work.
Yeah, so expect to see, all these different lines getting used tonight, especially with the track conditions that we have under the lights. It's going to be absolutely as gripped up as possible. Let's get right into our grid here as qualifying has completed and take a look at who gets our Jam Printing and Promotions Pole Award, and it's Jacob Ellingson in the 27 with a 29.371 next to the 46 of Timothy Peters with a 29.412. Tyler Justice will start on the inside of row 2 on the 33 with the 07 of Patrick Dravick on the outside. 5th will be Jake Ham in the 87 next to the 42 of Jeremy Gardner. Craig Bontrager takes the 49 to 7th place start here tonight next to the 22 of Michael McCarthy. Last but not least in our top 10, Jamie Mullins in the 66 next to the 8 of Regis Clark in 10th.
And rounding out your field tonight, 11th place is going to be Levi McCarty in the 24. Mike Browning to his outside in that 4 machine. Stephen McDonald will roll off 13th in the 68. George Jewell, we mentioned how he needs to move up, starting back in 14th. Brandon Wallace is going to roll off 15th tonight. That 16th spot we are going to leave blank. 17th will be Logan Sturgeon with Michael Seymour on his outside in 18th. Charles Aver will roll off 19th tonight. James Kaufman in P20. And last car on the field, Chuck Phelps in the 75 in 21st.
A couple new names in here tonight. Don't recall having, I believe it was the 8 of Regis Clark.
I've seen him in a couple races recently. I think he was in the last few weeks for sure. One of the newer drivers, though, wasn't here towards the start of the year.
Well, just a little bit behind on the times here, but here's all of our driver cameras on the night. Of course, we spoke with George Jewell here to start it all out. We got Timothy Peters there in the top left. Chuck Pegleg Phelps. Sun's out, guns out for Chuck Phelps. Patrick Drabick, of course, the bottom right. And Jake Ellingson brings up the camera this week. We didn't have him last week whenever he got that podium finish.
I mean, good mix of playoff drivers there. Race length tonight going to be 100 laps. Pit road speed 45 miles an hour. You got 4 tire sets back in the pits, which should be plenty for this race. 2 green-white checkered attempts if we need them. And as mentioned, with how close the points are coming into this race, it will be chaos on the points if we do need them. 100% fuel load tonight. A McConey fixed setup, and this is the cutoff race. You got to do well tonight or else you're going home.
You want to make it to the round of 8 by any means necessary. So that means that Charlotte will host some of the craziest racing that we've seen all season. And it's going to come down right here. Everything is on the line. Pace truck should come off. And let's see if Jake Ellingson can take this 27 from a green flag to the white flag. We are away at Charlotte. And coming around for lap 1, the 27 does retain the lead after starting on the pole. Timothy Peters slides into second right behind. There's that 33 of Tyler Justice, the black and yellow with the creamsicle 07 right in tow. But it's a scramble beyond that. Just outside here for that 5th position, Jake Hammond, the 87, has gotten to the inside and around the 42, all over the back bumper now of Patrick Drabick. Craig Bontrager down on the inside, getting past Jeremy Gardner as well.
Jeremy Gardner is one of only 2 drivers that comes into this race in any sort of good points position, really. Drabick's already advanced. He was the winner last week, but a quality podium run for that 42 car. Jeremy Gardner has him about 13 points up on the rest of the field tonight, so he is looking good. Just needs to finish top 10, and he should be able to advance here. Everybody else, though, from about 3rd on back, they need to go.
It's going to be that way the entire night. Some live standings there on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. You can see everything happening right here. That number 8 is right where you want to be looking. That's how many drivers we're taking out of this race tonight and into next week. That is where you want to be, and it's a move for Crane Bontrager to the inside now. Jake Ham up high. We got the 24 of Levi McCarty looking around here to follow the 49 of Bontrager on that low side, but can't really make up any ground here on Jake Ham, holding it down well on the outside, but at what cost? The tires, of course. The 87 will be wearing those down quite a bit more, but being under the lights here, that'll certainly help his factor to increase this long run. Patrick Drabick now down to the inside. We've got 2x2 just ahead of Levi McCarty here. 71 degrees on the track, Sky.
It is a little cold out here tonight at Charlotte. Usually you'd expect a warmer racetrack at 1.5 miles like this. We'll see how that affects these drivers and the tire wear. Got a battle for the lead going. TJ Peters tried to send it up the inside of Jake Ellingson there, but he wasn't able to get side by side, rolling down into 1 and 2. He'll go right back up behind the bumper of that 27 car. We'll see if he can make it work off into 3 and 4, and he will stay there for the time being as he tries to make a move on Ellingson for the lead. Patrick Drabick continues to close in for 3rd, and we're side by side with Justice and Bontrager for 4th.
The cold temperatures at a track like this, it essentially turns this race into a super speedway. We're going to see a lot of the side-by-side action all throughout the night until we get some drivers that think better of it and start thinking about that fuel-saving strategy. You just kind of single file out, run it out until that first tank is empty, and then put some good racing down on the back half of the race. Timothy Peters right now putting on a display here of how you want to draft, just staying behind. You don't want to get too terribly close. You can start to get these trucks hot. Potential of overheating and blowing the motor not very high, but not impossible. Plenty of room there.
Tyler Justice just slid back from 4th to 7th, fell out of that fight, and I'd like to talk about one of the cars right up in front of him, Jake Ham in the 87. He was the favorite coming into the playoffs here. He won 4 races in the regular season. He was the highest driver in points coming into this. He looked like he would be the driver to beat, but he had a terrible race last time out, got crashed out, wasn't able to finish the race, and because of that, he went from way above the cut line to only about 3 points to the good. So Jake Ham, who thought he was going to be safe to get through this first round, is going to need a big night tonight to keep himself in the fight for the next couple races.
And we've mentioned it before, Jake Ham kind of playing this season with a chip on his shoulder after being just shy of making the playoffs last season, and then took home that last win of the season at Darlington in the championship deciding race as a staple of I'll be back, and he came back with a vengeance indeed. It's Levi McCarty now in the 24, looking to the high side. The 07 of Patrick Dravik's going to be the first victim here. And does McCarty have enough not to the line? He did. He did get ahead of him at the line.
I feel like Levi McCarty is always one of those drivers who likes to push the pace, maybe try some different lines, run the top, and that's what he's doing right now. You know he needs a good night to get himself into the next round. Why not try to make it happen a little early on in the run? Definitely he's going to wear his tires a little more, but I don't think he's too worried about that right now. I think what he's worried about is passing Jake Ellingson for the lead. He's trying to get it done, and as we hit lap 12, he's still there on the outside. We'll see what he can do into 1 and 2.
McCarty not afraid to use the high line here. Looked like Peters was taking a look to the inside, but Ellingson shut that door. McCarty gets around on the outside. Ellingson slides up into second, just ahead of Patrick Dravik. Now Dravik is battling for third with Peters. Who's going to be able to come out ahead of this one? As we got Jake Ellingson. Ooh, Dravik into the wall on corner exit, but contains the momentum just enough to get the nose across the line. Still side by side into 1.
Dravik saw how McCarty was working that top line and went, well, guess I'll go up there too, and tried to do the same thing. Pull myself around Jacob Ellingson for P2, and he's almost got it here down the straightaway. He does have it here. Now it's going to be Timothy Peters looking above Jacob Ellingson for that third position. Top line's got a lot of speed right now, and these drivers are using it pretty well. Bontrager will try to force his way to the outside of the 27, and he will. So this looks like it's going to send Jacob Ellingson all the way back to maybe 5th, at least 4th, from the lead of this race.
You see the 87 back there leading that second pack of 3 cars. He's starting to adapt to that top line here as he's seeing the success of the drivers ahead. Patrick Dravik now has found momentum on the bottom line. Levi McCarty, maybe a little bit of a slip up. Here goes the 46 of Peters around the outside of Dravik. That door shuts just as quickly as it opened, but he's not backing down. Still door to door with the 07 on the bottom. Levi McCarty back up to the top lane. This is going to give Peters some momentum here with the draft, and Dravik is hung out to dry on the bottom.
Dravik's already won, as we mentioned last week. He's the only driver locked into the next round, but that's not going to stop him from trying to win this race tonight. Get himself a little more bonus points going into the round of 8 and put himself in a better position. It's a really bad run out of the corner that time for Dravik, and he'll drop spots to the 24 of McCarty and the 46 of Peters, who are getting clear at the front. And now those two will go side by side for the battle. McCarty, you saw him go from 6th to 2nd when he was in the lead. He'll drop out, and now TJ Peters, who came into this race back in 7th, 1 point to the good, will look like till he'll lock himself in on that ticker, now leading the race.
So the 46 with a win at Lime Rock. That's what got him here to the playoffs, on top of a overall pretty good season points-wise. That win being the icing on the cake for the 46. Coming out here to Charlotte and showing us how to do it. Putting a quarter of a second gap on second place now. All by himself. Kind of unheard of here. As McCarty, Dravik, Ellingson, Bontrager all start to close in together. Here's the 87 to Ham as well at the back of the pack. Peters seemingly getting away from everybody as the top 4 are kind of falling back to everybody else.
I feel like we haven't seen this 46 car kind of up in the front of this field too often in recent weeks, but when we have seen him up there, we've seen him dominate. If TJ Peters is going to go for the lead in a race, you know he's going to be the car to beat. And now as he opens up a half-second gap to McCarty behind, he seems to really have that thing working on the short run here at Charlotte. A lot of speed out of that 46. McCarty, who drove up from 11th to the lead, starting to fall a little closer back to Ellingson and Dravic.
Right now, it's pretty well single filed out, just as we had thought. Took a little bit longer than I thought it would. In the corners, though, you still see the entire field nearly fan out. Some drivers still using that top line, as it looked like the 07 a little loose, or maybe some contact with a wall out of 4. We'll see it here again as Ellingson goes back to the bottom. McCarty, Dravic, Ham all staying at the top. It looked like Peters there was kind of running a mid line. So looks like all 3 lines are being utilized here. Is now McCarty and Ellingson drop it down to the bottom. Dravic stays high. Ham brings it to the bottom. Look at this. The 87's got a chance here to challenge the 07 of Dravic. Getting closer to that back bumper. We'll see what he does here into turn number 3. On board now. The 87 of Ham gets a little bit of a run here, but not enough to make any sort of move. Here's a dive to the inside. Doesn't quite get to the back bumper, but that battle up ahead is side by side. Ellingson into second here, just ahead of McCarty. Ham still all over the back bumper of Patrick Dravic.
What I'm looking at is the gap that's kind of opening on that bottom right on your live point standings. Bontrager 8 points ahead of Mullins. 8th place is that cutoff right now, so Jamie Mullins would get in 1 point ahead of Mike Browning if this were to hold, and he is only 2 points ahead of Michael McCarthy and 4 ahead of Steve McDonald. So none of those guys at the back truly out of it yet. Car in the wall, that's Dravic in the 07, and now Ham will get some speed up the inside.
Ham gets a look here. Gets to the inside just well enough here. Does he get the slide job complete? He's up in front of the 07. Dravic now looks to the bottom here. He's going to get to the bumper before 3. The inside line, the battle going on for 4th right now. Ellingson, McCarty, they've caught back up to Peters now. Separated by 1/10 of a second. Bontrager here in the picture for this battle as well. A little bit further back. It's the 68 of Steve McDonald on the inside of the 4. That's Mike Browning. Side by side down the back stretch. McDonald slides back a little bit, but gets that momentum on the bottom line. Let's see how he does through the middle of the corner. And Ellingson takes over the lead here. So we're keeping an eye on that battle a little bit further back. The 27 got to the inside of the 46, made that pass. Take it back on the V-Speed instant replay here. Coming down the backstretch side by side. Into 3. Man, Peters really tried to keep him down there on the bottom, almost sacrificing a spot to McCarty as he had some momentum. But Ellingson found the grip right when he needed it on that drive off and got that pass completed before the start-finish line. Now we've got some separation in the top 3 once more, Sky.
Yeah, it was a really good pass for him. Ellingson up 2.5. A quarter of a second is what I am trying to say there. 0.25 of a second as Ellingson has gotten himself out in front of Peters in the 46. That car leading Levi McCarty back in 3rd by about the same amount, but that 24 car is in the fence. That'll let Jake Ham get a run up the inside, and now that 87 car gonna take over 3rd. He's won 4 races already this year. We know he's got speed. He's moving up through the field here. Can he make it a 5th at Charlotte?
He's got the pace to do so. Ham finding his way to a podium spot here early on in this race. Just over a quarter of it completed. And we're already About a second and a quarter off of our best lap time. So the fall off actually being a little bit more than I was expecting, as the 07 to Drabic now has a 33 to the inside. Tyler Justice looking to get around the creamsicle machine as Drabic pinches him way low. Keep that 33 on the line. He'll get a better drive off the corner here. Drabic will make his way back into 7th momentarily.
Like we mentioned, that 07 car has already gotten a win this year, so he doesn't have to push too hard. Or he's already gotten a win in the playoffs, so he doesn't have to push too hard. He won last week. No matter where he finishes, he is into the next round. So he's kind of got that luxury of, if he sees something he doesn't like in front of him, he can drop a little further back, maybe save some tire, try to prepare for later. One car that is dropping back is the 24 Levi McCarty. He started in 11th. He was in the lead not too long after that, but he's already gone back in free fall, burned up those tires early, and now he's fighting for 5th with that 49 car and Craig Bontrager and Gardner behind him, almost in the fence.
Bontrager now to the inside, as it looks like just ahead. Ham's also challenging the 46. Side by side here. You know, I've noticed that whenever McCarty gets into the wall ahead of Patrick Drabic, although he's battling, like you mentioned, he takes that sense of security and backs it up just a little bit. He'll sacrifice that position for the moment. And man, McCarty having a tough time off of 4. I think even Ham touched the wall a little bit there. So these tires really starting to get slippery out here.
Yeah, we've seen a couple cars get into the wall now, and that's because this track is pretty narrow, more than a lot of 1.5 miles. You think of maybe another 1.5 miles like Kentucky, you got a lot of space to work. Not here. This track is a lot more narrow than you typically see in tracks of this size, so it can be a lot easier to scrape that wall out of the corner. We're side by side for 3rd, or we're side by side for 2nd. We're side by side for 5th as well, as 3rd place Jake Ham, 2nd place TJ Peters go at it, along with 5th place Levi McCarty, 6th place Craig Bontrager.
Ham to the inside, and he'll get that room here. The 42 of Gardner is going to try to take advantage as well. Peters at risk of losing 2 in 1 lap. 42 keeps it right there on that left rear quarter panel, now to the inside, door to door. And it seems like this bottom line's been getting a better drive off of turn 4. We'll see Gardner slide his way up ahead of the 46. Puts Peters back in 4th, and Ellingson with a big lead now, the biggest one we've seen so far. That is a 2.25 seconds from 2nd to 1st. Gardner still looking to challenge here, as he's almost gotten side by side with Jake Ham, but slides back behind the 87.
And this track is always changing. At the start of the race, we thought that top line was really the preferred groove. Cars like McCarty were making big progress on it. But now, 1/3 of the way into this race already, and the track is changing. The inside line's coming a little more dominant. Now you're seeing a lot of cars like Gardner trying to make a move up the inside of Jake Ham here. He'll ride that bottom, what he thinks is the dominant line, while Ham goes all the way up to the outside wall. They come out of the corner a lot more even than you'd think, but Ham eventually gets the spot back by the time we enter 3. He'll clear the 42 car down through turn 4.
Jake Ham doing a fantastic job of utilizing that bottom line, but now it's going to be a little bit more about teamwork here. When Gardner takes a look to the inside, he's going to try to complete that same exact move. Does he have the room to do it? And he slides up early. Gardner barely gets into the wall. The 87 kind of got the crossover completed, but door to door here through 3 and 4. He's going to come out on top this time. Nearly contact. Man, oh man, the 87 was close.
These two are really, really going for it right now because every point is on the line. Gardner came into this a little bit above the points cutoff. He was the only car with any sort of gap, but Jake Ham, as mentioned, was only 3 to the good, so he needs to go. Another car that needs to go. Jamie Mullins was on the outside looking in coming into this race. He dropped even further back because he started saving some tires, but now on lap 36, he's starting to pick up some spots. Gotten around that 4 car, Mike Browning, who he's also racing with down near the cut line. Now he's working on the 07 of Patrick Drabic, trying to get himself up to 8th with sights set on Bontrager, the car 1 spot ahead of him in 7th.
Drabic can play this race safely. However, as mentioned earlier, looked like the 4 of Browning got a little loose off of 2. But the 07 still could use as many bonus points going into the next round. You know, the better the finishing position, the better setup you are to try to get in. A couple drivers loose off of 4. That was Mullins and Browning, both sideways. And we've got one going across the infield. It's the 22 of Michael McCarthy, and a whole lot of speed, nose straight into the pit wall barrier. That is most likely an expired engine. Looks like he got loose out of turn number 4, got up into the wall and just couldn't quite get it straight again. Oh yeah, there's a big hit first. Kept it out of the way of 2 drivers. Tried to recover it. Just couldn't ever get the back end back underneath the truck, and that grass certainly doesn't help. Hard into the pit wall.
And that'll be your first driver out of the playoffs. Michael McCarthy came into this looking like he was going to get a spot in the next round. He was 8th. He was the cut line, but now he will leave this race in 12th out of the field. That's one more spot open for a car like Jamie Mullins, Craig Bontrager trying to jump their way in.
Don't forget George Jewell, who was starting out this race at the bottom of that board. He's got a better opportunity now to make some headway here as one driver out of the way. That means he just has to battle 3 more to get up into that 8th spot. See if George Jewell can do what he needs to get done. Currently running in 17th. Back 3 positions from where he ended up starting this race. He's going to have to figure it out here at the back half after this pit cycle gets completed. 36 with a whole lot of room to move upwards through the field. Coming down the back stretch. Still Ellingson ahead, but Gardner has caught up. We saw over a 1-second lead here for Ellingson, now down to just 0.2.
Yeah, this gap has shrunk considerably here between Ellingson and Gardner. Ellingson had that massive lead, like you said, but Gardner, who has really saved his tires, has come on throughout the second part of this run now. By about lap 25, he started 6th. He was still running around 6th or 7th, but now, 15 laps later, he's going for the lead. Side by side with that 27 car, and he will get the position. Doesn't even put any effort into it. He makes it look easy getting around Jake Ellingson there. Jeremy Gardner doing a great job on the long run to give himself first on lap 43 of 100.
Coming into this race at the top of the point standings, Jeremy Gardner looking to make that lead increase even more. Try to set himself up perfectly for the round of 8. It's the 46 of Peters now. It's fallen back here to the 5th position. 33 of Justice just behind. The 24 of Levi McCarty just ahead. McCarty still struggling on corner exit. Those rear tires are certainly getting a workout here, and it's got to be coming up here shortly for that first pit stop. We're coming around here. Middle of lap 44. We'll start lap 45. I believe pit window should be anywhere from 45 to 55, Sky.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to see a lot of cars start to come down once we hit the midpoint of this race. Kind of want to split the race in half if you can. We're about 50 on one set of tires, 50 on the other. We'll see if anyone tries to come down, do a little bit of the undercut here, and come out and try to get some extra spots by having fresher tires on the early part of the run. We'll also see if anyone tries the opposite, tries to stay out as long as they can, maybe hoping for a caution or hoping for a faster second half of the run. Kind of depends on how you drove this first run and what you think you can do in the second run. If you think that you're really good at saving tires, you might try the undercut. Same the other way around.
One thing to keep in mind here as well, current lap times are only about 1.5 seconds now, so that tire fall off has hit a plateau. It was about lap 20 where we saw right around the second mark that they had lost on their best laps so far this race. And 20 laps later, it's only 0.5 second worse than that. A little bit further back here's the 33 looking to take advantage of the inside line that's proven to be dominant here in these late runs. Doesn't quite get to the inside where he needs to challenge for this position, but Peter's going to take it up high on the track. Still keeping the 33 down there as close as possible. He's going to pinch him even more here on corner exit. That'll give Peter some breathing room coming down the backstretch. Try to protect that inside line in 3 and 4.
Tyler Justice, your only car in the top 10, not in the playoffs right now. And he actually started up in third, dropped back, was pretty clearly in tire saving mode. And you're seeing the benefits of that right now. Another car with fresher tires compared to some of these guys who were racing at the front all stint. And that'll let Tyler Justice crawl up into 5th. Now looking at Levi McCarty, another driver who we know struggled to save tires in 4th. If we get another long run in the second stint, you got to watch out for cars like Gardner and Tyler Justice, who have shown that they're able to save the tires that they need to run well. And pit stops are beginning. We got our first car coming into the pits back there. That is Timothy Peters pitting from 6th.
Peters didn't like the fact that the 33 was able to get inside and make it look that easy. A textbook pass coming out of Tyler Justice. That'll send the 46 down pit lane to be the first driver to collect some new tires and fresh fuel just before the halfway mark. Right side's up as the field will get around here. Peters will be 1 lap down as he comes back out. We've got another driver bringing it down as Patrick Drabick entering pit road now. He'd fallen back to the back half of the top 10, battling to stay in the top 10. Saw that tire fall off, and both of these drivers will need to change up the strategy of how they were looking to race here tonight. As you just mentioned, Sky, the second stint will have to be entirely differently played for a lot of these drivers. Now McCarty brings it down pit road. Ellingson just ahead of him. Bontrager behind. Looks like Mike Browning as well. We're about halfway through the field now, coming into pit road.
Yeah, and we're halfway through the race, which makes it kind of the ideal time to make these stops. You can split the tire life evenly between the 2 runs. Always a pretty smart time to do it. We'll see if Gardner ends up making the turn down this time. He will. Jake Ham will come in with him. But Jake Ham, I noticed, got a lot better of an entry than Gardner is. He really pushed it for speed, and that's going to let him catch up time. Everyone coming in behind looks like, yeah, that is every single car in the field will come down either that lap or this lap. Pit road full like it's a caution on lap 52.
Under green flag conditions, of course, you love to see it. As now that first group cycling back out onto the track here. Tyler Justice currently has the lead as he's in pit road. This time around here, I believe, it's going to be a battle on the backstretch here. Looks like the 42 at Gardner will insert himself right here into the leading position. We have enough speed off the bottom here to keep it going into turn 3. They're battling back there side by side. I think Gardner's going to be clear here all the way back to the start-finish line. Jake Ham cycles out in second. Ellingson was back here battling with Peters, slowing both of those drivers down as Levi McCarty is now over the back bumper of the 46. But hey, would you look at that? It's Lincoln Tech on that 27. Why not give them a quick shout out here while we're looking at it? Lincoln's mission is to provide superior education and training to our students for in-demand careers in a supportive, accessible learning environment, transforming students' lives and adding value to their communities. They are one of the largest automotive technology schools in the nation with 23 campuses. They are the title sponsor of the Spring Series and a very large partner of Goat Locker Racing. Currently, that Lincoln Tech 27 truck in a podium position. We still have a whole lot of race left to go. Ellingson has a great opportunity here in third place to increase that. Maybe see second or first here before that white flag flies.
And I would like to mention part of the issue with Ellingson's pit stop, the reason why he came out so far back there, was because he just took a longer pit stop than Jeremy Gardner did. Jeremy Gardner was in the box 14.5 seconds. Ellingson 15.2. Had the slowest pit stop of any car in the field there. Sat in the box for a while, and that cost him about 0.8 seconds in total coming off pit road. There were also problems right on the cut line. Mike Browning, he had some kind of issue either getting onto or off pit road, and he spent 2 extra seconds driving the car through the pit lane. In comparison to Jamie Mullins, he came out 0.7 behind that car. So those are the cars currently 8th and 9th on the cut line. That could be a big swing coming down towards the end of this race.
It absolutely could. Coming around here down the back stretch, there goes Bontrager, Mullins, Browning just behind. So both of those drivers, they're going to be battling it out here all the way to the finish for that last spot going into next week. But back up towards the front, Jeremy Gardner has some challenge coming up from the 87 to J Cam. We'll see which one of these drivers can start to really put some momentum down here in the playoffs. Both of these drivers taking home multiple wins on the year. Gardner looking to make it 3 here tonight. Ham looking to make it 5.
And this would really cement Jake Ham as the favorite if he's able to get another win here, get him some extra points, lock himself into the next round. If he got his bad luck out of the way with that accident last week and he can run clean over the last 3 races here to the end of this series, I think he's got a really good chance to bring home the title with how he's driven this season. But you can't count out guys like Dravic, guys like Gardner, who have gone out there and been able to win multiple races this year. I think we've got about 5 or 6 drivers with a good shot of bringing home the title. Really anybody's game in this series on a race-to-race basis, and that's what's going to make Texas so fun as a decider.
13 points separate Gardner and Ham on the board. Ham with that bad luck last week, it certainly didn't help, but he is still in a position to move on. Look at McCarty here. He's caught up to these two. Falls back a little bit on the front stretch, but he was all over the back bumper, it looked like, of Jake Ham. Ham still trying to find out which lane to use to get around the 42 of Jeremy Gardner. On board now with McCarty. McCarty with a big run off of 2 to the inside of Jake Ham here on the entrance of 3. He won't be able to continue that momentum to get around the 42, but he does complete the pass on Jake Ham. McCarty back up into the 2nd position.
That is a pretty similar strategy, I feel like, to what we saw in the first part of this run from Levi McCarty, where on the first, I'd say 10 or 15 laps of that opening stint, he was on it. He was passing everybody. He was flying up through the field. And then once we hit about lap 15 or 20, those tires got overheated and he started to fall back. Still managed to stabilize out in about 4th or 5th, but he wasn't up there contending for the lead anymore. McCarty seems to be trying to do something pretty similar here. Fight really hard early in the stage, and then once the tires start to overheat, back it down, try to stabilize back in 4th or 5th. If you're a driver like this, I think he's currently 10 or 15 points to the good. No reason to wreck yourself racing for a win when a 3rd or a 4th place will do just fine.
There's those live standings right now. It's Levi McCarty. He's way up there. Win would lock him into the round of 8, obviously, for any of these drivers. McCarty still utilizing that top line. Mere inches off the wall. We'll see if he can hold it down a little bit better than he did in the first run. Back to the bottom here. Smart move by the 24. If you've got that gap, as you see right now, over a half second back to Jeremy Gardner, who's still trying to keep the 87 to Jake Ham at bay. Those two could start battling at any moment, and if you're Levi McCarty, that's exactly what you want to see in the rearview mirror, forcing those two drivers to burn up their tires a little bit faster than you are. Running that high line is certainly not going to help. Gardner, it seems like, found a little bit of a pace down the back stretch, but into turn 3, Levi McCarty's able to put a couple tenths over the 42.
If we were to see, I think, about a 10 or 15 lap run to the end of this race, I think you would see a lot of cars migrate up to the top. That line seems to have a lot of short run speed, particularly in 1 and 2. It does wear out your tires, but it is the faster lane, especially on that short run. However, over the course of about 50, 48 laps, however much you're running on this set of tires, the inside lane is going to be the net positive because you're able to save more tire down there, and it really helps you in the long run. So if this race goes green to the end, I think we're going to see a lot of cars just keep riding that inside. If this race ends in a short run, a caution comes out, something like that, I think you're going to see some guys start to migrate up top.
Back just a little bit further here at the back half of the top 10, we've got a playoff driver that's under fire from the 8 of Regis Clark. Craig Bontrager had the 8 to the inside just moments ago. Finally was able to get a little bit of separation here. Still holding that 9th position. But man, it's it's going pretty smooth here as we're really just single filed out throughout the entire field. Mike Browning on the outside looking in, still needs to make up some progress here as Jamie Mullins has 1 point of an advantage over the 4 machine. This is your battle of the night for the cut line. Michael McCarthy will not be in this battle here as you see him in that 10th spot.
Yeah, some of these guys who are kind of in this playoffs, they basically need a caution at this point if they are going to get anywhere. George Jewell absolutely needs a caution to get back in this. I think McDonald likely does too. This battle right here is the interesting one. Mullins is a driver who we saw save some tires in the early part of that first stint, and now he's banging on the door of Regis Clark in P10, maybe not trying to save as much in this second stint. He will get that move done on Clark, and that'll promote him from 1 point to the good to 2 points to the good. Would be a 2-point swing if he's able to get around Mike Browning here.
The 66 closing that gap. Backs down turn 3 a little bit more. He's going to look to the inside, finds a whole lot of momentum, slides up the track and leaves just enough room, but side by side now with Mike Browning. The 66 has the advantage here going into turn 1, that low line being dominant once more. Can Jamie Mullins get clear here out of turn number 2? It looks like they've got room to do it, but stays on the inside. The 4, Mike Browning, going to get right back door to door here going into turn number 3.
Still battling side by side between these two. Mullins continuing to try and extend his spot on that cut line, and he will get clear. Browning will try to look to the inside, but he won't get there. And as they battle, might want to pay attention to the hood of that 66 car there for Jamie Mullins. He's got SAVE22 written on that thing, and that is one of our partners here with Goat Locker Racing. SAVE22 is a 501c3 organization dedicated to preventing suicide among veterans, active duty personnel, and first responders. Their unwavering mission extends to 4 critical pillars: shield, assist, volunteer, and educate, or SAVE. We thank them for all they do here. They're the title sponsor of the SAVE22 Truck Series here in Goat Locker Racing, and they're getting a pretty good race tonight, especially up front, because Levi McCarty has been chased down by Jeremy Gardner, your new leader on lap 72.
The 42 with a great move to the inside. McCarty might have burned him up a little bit too early. As Jeremy Gardner has found the momentum, Jake Ham has even closed the gap back up now to the 24 machine as both of those drivers taking the high line here. Going to try to find a little bit more speed coming down the back stretch, but it won't be enough to get back up to the 42 of Gardner here before turn 3. McCarty looks to the inside. Gardner sees it and closes that door. Jake Ham running that middle line. Big time loose off of turn 4 for the 87, but collects it back up. Really no momentum lost either.
No, he's staying right there. We're going to get a V-Speed replay here of what happened to Jake Ham rolling through turns 3 and 4, trailing Levi McCarty in that 24 car, and he's going to get loose on exit. Good save there. He didn't even lose any time. Just collected it, kept it going, still running P3.
This is kind of a preferred situation for some of these drivers, having a nice loose setup. They can be quite fast as they are putting down lap times right at that 31-second mark, 31.0, 31.1 for most of this field coming across that start-finish line this time by. So already a second off the pace, just right at that 20 to 25 mark. This is where it starts to plateau. Between this to the end of the race, you won't see much more fall off of these tires, so it's time to push if you can. McCarty seemingly pushed a little bit too early. He's on board with Ham. He's catching back up to the 24 machine. Both these drivers just inches off the wall here through the middle of 1 and 2. Be interesting to see if either one of them has anything left in the tank to catch back up to Jeremy Gardner. We got 25 more laps to find out.
We're going to find out, I think, if there's any driver in this series that's really threatening Jake Ham's claim to championship favorite. It is Jeremy Gardner. He's had a lot of speed all season. Won a race at Kansas, another 1.5 miles. Won a race at Nashville, which is just under 1.5 miles. He's good at these types of racetracks, and if you look at the schedule leading down to the end of this season, what do we got next? Another 1.5 miles next week at Homestead. We go to Martinsville, but then our final is another 1.5 miles at Texas. He's shown he can win here and perform well here, and with 2 of those 3 races at the end of the season being similar tracks to this, I think he's a big threat.
Big threat here for second place as Levi McCarty was able to get around Jake Ham momentarily, but a slip up out of turn number 4 for the 24 machine as he's loose coming down the backstretch. Looks like Ellingson has entered back into the picture here for a contending position. 25, or apologize, the 27 finding some late run speed. There he is. Jake Ellingson currently running in 4th, looking to the inside of Levi McCarty. He's going to get that bottom line. And McCarty into the wall
Problems for TJ
again.
Peters.
The 46 brings it down pit road here.
I'm not sure if this was a scheduled stop, but I saw him free-falling down the ticker. Gotta wonder what's up here with the 46 to warrant a pit stop. Looks like the right sides are going to come up there, so he's doing the tire change. Not sure if this is a scheduled stop or if he's trying something a little wacky here.
He's recognized that 1 second gap here from the fresh tires to the old tires. It'll be interesting to see if anybody else will try to bring it down pit road. 46 is going to fall out of the top 10 standings here as he's tied with Mike Browning, but the 46 1 lap down.
This is interesting, especially because now it's kind of all on Mike Browning, who's under threat from the 68 car of Stephen McDonald. He's actually going to get passed by the 68 car of Stephen McDonald. That is another car that's come right back into the cutoff from this. McDonald in 10th. He's only 2 points back of TJ Peters. So now that Peters has made that pit stop, unless that really works out for him, you got to be looking at Steve McDonald and Mike Browning as cars that, if they could just get a couple more spots here, could really bring themselves up into the field at the last possible second.
Be interesting to see if the 46 has enough to get around this field, unlap himself. You know, all he needs is 1 position there to be in the good to Mike Browning, as, well, technically in the good by 1 point for now, but Browning just has to move up 1 more spot. We're inside 20 to go here at Charlotte for our first cutoff race. And that's, I don't even know if we can really call it drama. That's just odd.
Yeah, no one else came down with him, and we saw in the first stint you can go 50 laps on a fuel tank at least. So I'm interested in if he had some kind of technical issue that caused that, or maybe lost audio or something. I know I've had to make pit stops from losing audio before. I can't imagine what would have happened to that 46 to make him pit from a playoff position to now almost being out of a playoff position. He's kind of just relying on Mike Browning not being able to do it, or him being able to pass. well, really the entire field. He'd need to go 30 seconds and 16 laps here to try to get himself back up. It looks like he'll probably get around Jewell and Kaufman back here if we get no caution, but McDonald and Browning are kind of right in this battle here for 10th and 9th, and that could really throw a wrench in things for him.
Very well could, as the 46 is already working his way through the top 10. And George Jewell being 25 seconds back, he's only about 5 to 6 seconds ahead of the leaders currently. So, if my math is mathed out correctly, Timothy Peters should be able to get back around George Jewell, possibly James Kaufman. I don't know. We'll have to keep an eye on the points there and see how that plays out for the 46. But here's that battle between Regis Clark and the 68 of Steve McDonald. McDonald to the inside here. Door to door on the entry of 3. Clark gets a little bit of an advantage on that top line. He'll get back up ahead of the 68 machine.
And it's
looking to make that bottom line work, though.
It's new life for the 68 car because he was pretty much the last car into these playoffs. And oh my goodness, into the side of Regis Clark. The 8 machine is in the fence. He'll go back to 13th. That'll be a spot for Browning. It'll be a spot for McDonald. And now we're tied with Timothy Peters. If you want to move a car, you don't want to move him enough that the guy who's one spot ahead of you in the points also gets around him. Regis Clark, not a playoff driver, is going to make a pit stop here with that damage.
So this plays into Peters' favor here, as Clark potentially could be held up in pit road for enough time for the 46 to make his way back around the track and get ahead of the 8. That'll put him back ahead of Mike Browning by 1 point. Currently tied, though, for that cutoff position. I think the advantage would go to Timothy Peters after having that win on our one and only road course. Not sure what the official ruling would be. There it is. Peters does get that extra point back. So now in the green, Mike Browning just 1 point back. Steve McDonald's 2 points back.
That was pretty clearly what felt like a desperation move from the 68 of McDonald there, but it's going to end up hurting him. It helps him on the track. It hurts him in the point standings, because if he had just passed that 8 car normally, he's 1 spot behind Timothy Peters, but now basically everybody has gotten that pass made because Clark has dropped behind not just Peters, but behind Mike Browning as well. So he's in the exact same position he was before, but now with 1 less car in front of him and a 1 second gap to Sturgeon up the road. Ooh.
I am not entirely positive at this point if Peters has enough time to even get his lap back. Yeah, there's the 07 of Patrick Drabick just ahead. He's running in 8th right now, so Peters has only made his way back into the top 10. Hasn't made any much more room. But he does have that 1 point advantage on the point standings. Just not going to help him out at all in the next round. Back up here towards the front, Jake Ellingson looking to challenge Jake Ham. The 87 keeping it up high on the wall is Jeremy Gardner, almost a second out ahead of these 2 drivers.
Yeah, and as the laps tick down, we're under 10 to go. Everybody, barring a caution here, everybody from 7th on up is good. Gardner, Ham, Ellingson, McCarty, Drabick are, along with Bontrager and Mullins, are the cars who we don't really need to worry about. If everything stays green, they keep running where they're running, they're all moving on to next week. It's the bubble battle between Peters, Browning, and McDonald that's really going to come down to the wire, because McDonald can get another spot here. He's gaining time on Logan Sturgeon, but I don't think he's got any shot of catching Drabick. It's too little too late. So he is going to need something to go wrong here if he wants to get that final point and catch Timothy Peters. And the thing is, if he didn't move Regis Clark, if Clark didn't get into the fence, he would probably have that 8th spot right now.
It's an interesting way that this race is played out here in the closing laps. While we have a quick break in the action, though, let's give a shout out to one of our sponsors here. We'll go with Jam Printing and Promotions, who sponsors our Pole Award on Friday nights. But since forming in 2013, Jam has contributed printing and promotional sponsorships to more than 60 local nonprofits, with a primary focus on organizations that assist veterans, women, and children. They have been with Goat Locker Racing since the very beginning, local and veteran certified. When they do well, they do good in the community. Patrick Drabick sporting that Jam Printing and Promotion 07 truck every single week here. A little bit of an upgrade, as you notice those chrome numbers on the side stand out a little bit more under the lights here at Charlotte. As this time by, I don't know if Drabick has much more in the tank to catch back up to Jamie Mullins in the 66, but again, Drabick not in a position where he needed to win tonight after taking home the win last week, locking himself in and in a good point standing overall coming into the playoffs. Drabick just looking to complete the race. Gardner looking to lock himself in, although he's pretty well locked in based off of the points. A win doesn't hurt, though, as we are 5 to go at Charlotte.
A win can never hurt. You always want to get one of those, and you want to get yourself some extra points going into the last 3 races of this season. I said Jeremy Gardner is really hot at these 1.5-mile tracks. He's got 2 of them coming up. I think if you're picking a favorite right now for the title, Jeremy Gardner looks like a pretty good option here with a win tonight. That'll be his 3rd on the year. He's done it in dominating fashion. He's done it by being really good on long runs primarily as well. And we tend to get a lot of long runs in this series, especially in these playoffs. We've gone 96 greens so far tonight. So if we keep getting these long runs in the playoffs, Jeremy Gardner, I mean, he looks like a pretty solid contender going into Texas to try to win this title.
Gardner currently catching up to some lap traffic here. It's been a while since the 42 has had any dirty air on the nose. We'll see how it drives for him now. There's a 36 of George Jewell just ahead, at risk of going a lap down here just before the end of the race. Gardner with quite the lead now, 2 seconds over Jake Ham. Ellingson 2.5 seconds back, but it's clean and free out the back door for the top 3. As Gardner goes to the inside, and man, oh man, did that look like it was going to end badly. George Jewell a little loose off of turn number 4, came back down the track. Luckily, the 42 well clear of it. That could have been a bad case scenario if you're Jeremy Gardner, but 2 to go here.
Yeah, not a good race for George Jewell. He'll drop out of the playoffs here. He was last coming in, struggled tonight, will not advance to the next round. What he might play a role in here is if Timothy Peters can get around to him, but I think because he got lapped, Peters won't be able to catch him. Instead, Gardner will take the white flag. He's got 1 to go to get his 3rd race win of the season.
Big points implications here for the 42. We've got enough room behind. It's the 87 of Ham, the 27 of Ellingson. They're battling it out down the back stretch here, but Gardner into turn number 3. Coming through turn number 4, the white and black flag in hand, checkers out, and it's win number 3 for the 42 of Jeremy Gardner, and on to the round of 8.
He's going into the round of 8 with some momentum, too, getting it done there. Got Homestead again next week, a pretty similar track to this. I think if he can do well here, he's a threat to win at Homestead. Really, really good race to build some momentum for Jeremy Gardner.
You can't ask for much more. A 2-point lead over second place Patrick Drabick, and then it's a little bit further back, 9 points separated second and third coming into this race. So Gardner's going to go through this playoff with quite a head start here. Another big win coming for the 42 at one of the most opportune times. Jeremy Gardner with the celebration here at the start-finish line. What do you say we take it to a quick commercial break here, Sky? Then we'll come right back with our post-race coverage and interviews with our top 3 finishers.
A thriving job market and low cost of living, plus a wide range of veteran benefits, make Indiana the perfect place for veterans of the United States military to call home. InVets can help you find that home. We're an organization started by veterans to help former service members transition to civilian life in our state. InVets can help you find the community with the career opportunities, housing, schools, and amenities that fit your lifestyle. To learn more about InVets, visit us at invets.org today.
And we're back here live at Charlotte for our post-race coverage of the SAVE22 Truck Series first cutoff race. Jeremy Gardner takes home the win here tonight after only 6 lead changes and 0 cautions. Jake Ham makes his way from 5th to 2nd. And Jake Ellingson, after setting the pole, does retain a podium position but falls back to 3rd. Levi McCarty, with a valiant effort, battled for the lead multiple times here tonight. The 24 takes home 4th, followed up by the 33 of Tyler Justice. A rather quiet night from the 33, but overall a top 5 finish. Can't be too upset with that. Craig Bontrager in the 49 takes home 6th here, and the 66 of Jamie Mullins locks into the round of 8 with a 7th place finish. Patrick Drabick, not the night that he wanted to see for the Creamsicle 07, finishing out here in 8th. Logan Sturgeon in the 26 moves from 17th to 9th on the night. And last but not least, it's the 68 of Steve McDonald, who does unfortunately fall outside of the top 8, will not continue on to next round.
And starting back from there, Mike Browning will finish in P11 tonight. Chuck Phelps in the 75 in 12th. Browning also out of the playoffs after tonight. Seymour will finish in 13th and 37. Kaufman in 14th in the 25. George Jewell out of the playoffs, 15th in the 36. TJ Peters in the 46 finishes 16th. Brandon Wallace in the 99 and 17th. Regis Clark 9 laps down in the 8th and 18th. And last car on the field tonight was Mike McCarthy out of the playoffs, 19th in the 22.
Well, we knew that we were coming in to cut out 4 drivers. That battle there at the cut line was hot all night long, but up here at the front of the points, your current points leader, Jeremy Gardner, takes home another win here. Make it number 3 on the season. Jeremy Gardner, driver of the 42. He led 49 laps after gaining 5 positions, taking home that checkered flag. And what kind of momentum do we have building up here for the 42 team?
It's pretty good momentum. Unfortunately, I'm not going to make it next week, so I'm going to be in a must-win at Martinsville. So I drove my ass off tonight just to try to be up there in points. I mean, I know it really don't matter being in a must-win, but definitely felt good winning at one of my best tracks.
Well, you are coming into that next week with a pretty decent points advantage. You might still be able to get away without a must-win situation, but it certainly makes the back half of the playoffs a whole lot more different for you. We're seeing a potential for a back-to-back champion here. You think that you've got what it takes to pull it together at the end of this playoff bracket and see what he does, or what you do rather.
Yeah, I mean, surely if I can get to the championship round, I think it'll be a good run for us. I just got to get through Martinsville. You never know what's going to happen there, so I'm just going to keep digging. I've been digging the last couple of weeks. I come more alive there in the playoffs, so I come to play in the playoffs. So I'm going to give it everything I got. Definitely trying to go back-to-back.
Well, we saw, last season you took home the win at Michigan in the playoffs, but I think you pretty well had a podium in every single one of the playoff races. Now you've picked it up here towards the end of the season. You got that win at Kansas early on, and then you got the last win of the regular season at Nashville. Jeremy Gardner, is the strategy, going to change it all for you? Obviously at Martinsville, like you've mentioned, you're in a must-win situation. So is it just going to be an all-out, green flag to checkered, foot to the floor for the 42, or are you going to try to play it strategically and maybe go for tires or fuel strategy kind of call?
It's hard to say at Martinsville. You never know. Tire strategy can either win you a race or it can screw you. You can lose a bunch of positions, a bunch of cautions don't fall your way. You can fall to the back. You can win the race. I mean, you never know how it's going to play out there. So I'm just going to keep my head in it. I'm going to keep digging and would love to go back to back. That's for damn sure.
Absolutely. Well, Jeremy, anybody that you'd like to say thanks to for taking home our first cutoff race of the playoffs?
Yeah, man. Lincoln Tech, SAVE22, title sponsor of the series. I appreciate them guys. Pat and Jamie at JLR, appreciate everything them guys do. Indiana Department of Veteran Affairs. Of course, y'all put on a hell of a broadcast. I appreciate all y'all. And my guys are Premier Racing Setups.
Well, congratulations on the win here at Charlotte. And we'll see you in 2 weeks' time at Martinsville.
Yes, sir. We'll see y'all.
That'll move us right on along to our second place finisher, the driver of the 87, Jake Ham, who we have Sky Shrek standing by with.
Hey, Jake, you had a copy?
Copy.
P2 tonight, you're locked into the next round of the playoffs. We went caution-free, so tell me about how that affected your strategy this race.
That affected quite a bit. So that long run, I pushed a little too hard on the first set of tires. And then where I really messed up is when we came out of the pits, I thought I was going to be a half a gallon short, like 1.5 laps short. And I wasn't looking at the number right, and I was actually over. And so I stayed behind Gardner for the first, when we came out of the pits there by each other. I stayed behind him thinking I needed a save. And it was too late after I realized, hey, dummy, you have enough gas. So kind of messed up a little bit.
All right, well, kind of a crazy stat here. You haven't found victory lane in the last 3 races. That's the most races you've gone without winning all season. Tell me what you need to do to break that streak and get the win next week.
I need to put in some more practice time. I came in, I think like 10, 15 minutes before the race started. And so I just didn't have enough time. And I knew this is one of those races you need to, half a second, when you can start in the lead, you can build yourself a little bit of lead, a little bit of a gap there, just like I should have came in on the second set of tires 1 lap sooner before Jeremy popped in. And I think I would have had about a second on him, coming out, through the cycle there. I would have gained about a second on him, and it would have been a completely different race had I chosen to, come in a little bit sooner. So a little bit more practice, and I need to start paying a little bit more attention to the pit strategy.
All right, well, coming up in the next round of the playoffs, we got Homestead and we got Martinsville. It's 2 very different racetracks. Do you think either of those styles of racing kind of suit you, the 1.5 or the short track?
I definitely enjoy the short track racing. I have a little bit better control, I think, over conserving tires. If we have a chance to go long run, thoroughly enjoy when we get a chance to go up to Bristol. I sweep it when we have a green flag run the entire way. So I'm hoping, one of these I'll be able to get a victory in there and just make sure I can get it to the final and be in the top 4 for the end.
All right, well, anyone you want to thank or shout out tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. GM Premium Promotions and then SAVE22. B-Speed, you guys hosting the series. Love to go back, watch the broadcast. Mike Browning for doing all the awesome paints that we got. Burnouts for Bennett. Raising awareness for him and everything. Appreciate you guys throwing up too the screenshot when you do that. And then got a sponsor on the side of the truck too, Laugh With Me, comedy podcast on Spotify. My wife's cousin Jeremy Odom, stand-up comedian. And if you guys ever have a chance to listen to him, don't hold it against him that he's a redhead. But other than that, appreciate everybody coming out and watching.
All right, well, congrats on P2 tonight, Jake Ham.
Thanks.
And now, standing by with our third place finisher, Jake Ellingson, is going to be Logan Threlkeld.
Yeah, we've got Jake Ellingson down here on the third step of the podium. There's that driver camera up. Jake, you came into this race sitting in third in the points. You come out with a third place finish. You will stay ahead of Jake Ham, but you're closing that gap now to Patrick Drabick. And after the news that we just got from Jeremy Gardner, this missing next week, this kind of changes the strategy here for you in the playoffs.
I wouldn't say it changes the strategy any. Just having solid top 5 finishes and finishing the races. I think that's the biggest thing, the biggest hurdle. on every week in these playoffs. So that's just the goal is going to stay the same and not going to waver from that.
Last season was riddled with bad luck. This season, you're finding yourself in a position for a championship. What was the difference between season 8 and season 9 for the 27 machine?
I would say just like mindset. I had quite a few personal things going on last season that was a little bit rough. So just kind of getting that mindset right and getting back to what I do best. And that's just having a lot of fun.
That's what it's all about at the end of the day. Now, season 9 here, coming into the playoffs winless, but still at the top of the board. What are the chances that we find this 27 having a different type of interview here in the coming weeks? Maybe for first place instead of second or third. We've had you up here plenty of times for these spots.
It's a tough crowd to win against. I mean, the guys, Jay Camp, Levi McCarty, Pat, Jeremy. I'm sorry, Big Daddy. This crowd is definitely tough to win against. So we're just going to have to, keep doing the same things every week. And one of these weeks, it'll come. But not going out for the win, but it would be nice. But we're just going to continue doing what we do best.
Absolutely. Well, Jake, while we have you, it is nearly time to close out the show. But is there anybody that you'd like to say thanks to here for your third place finish at Charlotte?
Oh, hell yeah. I definitely have to thank Lincoln Tech for putting their name on this number 27 for the second season in a row. They're amazing organization, amazing help being the title sponsor for the spring series here. And then iRacing, Above the Yellow Line, Sim Motion, SAVE22 for coming on board and sponsoring the Premier Truck Series here. You guys at V-Speed for doing all the broadcasts every single Friday and Tuesday nights. And then last but not least, I can't thank my wonderful wife, my beautiful daughters for allowing me to have the time to come out and have fun with you guys.
Awesome. Well, congratulations once again on another podium finish. We'll see you next week when we head down to sunny Florida to take on Homestead.
Hell yeah. Let's go.
Jake Ellingson, everybody, with that third place finish on the night. Battled up there all night long as well. But Sky, what are your thoughts here as we went clean and green for 100 laps at Charlotte in our SAVE22 Truck Series?
I think we had a lot of good action, a lot of tight side-by-side racing really throughout the field tonight, and it was also a pretty intense ending there. With the points cut line, 3 drivers separated at the cut line by only 2 points. I think it was a pretty good race tonight, and I'm excited for Homestead next week.
Timothy Peters making up that last spot in 8th here to make it to next round with a very interesting call there, but was able to recover and retain that top 8 spot. But if you enjoyed tonight's coverage, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe so you never miss another race. For everybody behind the scenes at Goat Locker, Patrick Dravick, Jamie Barkus, Charles Abert, who runs the race control here on Friday nights. And for everybody behind the scenes at V-Speed, Adam Baker, Bradley Cooper, Morgan Cook, of course our producer tonight, Eddie Smith, my colleague in the booth, as always, Sky Schreck. My name is Logan Threlkeld. Thank you for watching tonight's broadcast, and we'll see you next week in Miami.